Welcome back in. We are back on Sunday, week 6. Right before we go kickoff, probably try to be on here for an hour, answer as many questions as I can to get you guys ready for this week. Quite a few injuries about this week as well. I mean, a lot of guys out. Obviously, we knew about Lamar, but Chuba Hubbard, Jalen Coker, Brenton Strange, Brock Bowers, Bucky Irving, Ricky Pearsall. A lot of the Chris Godwin's ruled out. So there's a ton of players, Terry McLaurin, all out this week. But let's go ahead and get to it. We already got some questions here in the chat. Let's start with Michael. Pick 3, Jamar Chase, Ted McMillan, Drake London, Worthy, Keenan Allen. You can see why you have this question, because this is an interesting one. So obviously we get the old Joe Flacco starting for the Bengals today, which I think actually helps Jamar Chase compared to what they had before. I would still go Jamar Chase, Drake London for sure. And I think I would go Xavier Worthy. This is tough. I really like all these guys, really. And especially now with Quentin Johnston ruled out, I think it even bumps Keenan Allen up. But I would still go Chase, London, and Worthy this week. You just know you're going to be wrong on one of these, because I mean, all of these. I think I have every one of these as all of them, but Keenan Allen is top 12 wide receivers, and then I have Keenan Allen at a top 15 wide receiver. So yeah, that's a tough one. Kanoa, aloha, Bam or Carter? Yeah. So this news came out right before, about an hour ago. Adam Schefter reported that Bam Knight is actually going to be the starting running back. The way that I would read this, if it was me, I think you're going to see Bam Knight maybe place a little bit more on the early downs. I think Amari DiMercado, actually, I think is probably going to get pushed out, and you're probably going to see Carter play more of the pass catching work and change of pace back. I'm not exactly sure why they're doing this. I know Bam Knight scored a touchdown late in the game last week against the Titans. I felt like Carter played pretty well for the most part. But I will say this. So the reason we liked Michael Carter so much last week over an Amari DiMercado was because of the upside, or the game script of how that game was probably going to turn out against the Titans, right? And we felt like that Cardinals would be able to control, which they pretty much did until late in that game, until they fumbled it away, literally, and allowed the Titans to come back and win that game. This is not how this game is going to play out against the Colts. Like, I would be shocked if Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals like controlled this game against the Colts, especially on the road. And so I would actually still think Carter's probably the better play, because I think he'd be the pass catching back. And I feel like this is going to be a trailing game script here. And so, like, if I had to choose between one of the two, it still probably would be Carter, even with the Bam Knight news. Like, Bam Knight becomes like a fringe flex play, I think, with this, but like, I'm not going crazy either. JR Sutton is killing me so far. He needs to get a touchdown and some receptions to save my week. Yeah, this game has been pretty gross for the most part. This London game, this early game we got going on, I mean, 10-11, which is, wild, because the Jets have done absolutely really nothing on offense this entire time. So, yeah, it's been pretty gross here in this game in London. That's why I hate these games. I feel like they're always weird scripts and everything else, but at least they're trailing, so it's not like they're really controlling this game now. So, like, they're gonna have to continue to throw. I saw, so that's the way that I would. It sucks, but yeah, at least the script is still in your favor. Like, it'd be different if this was like a 20-0 game right now, and I would really hate myself. At least with the way that it is now, the quarter and a couple of minutes left, hopefully Sutton can find his way to the end zone. Chico, PPR flex, Shaheed or Kendrick Bourne. So we got the news that obviously Ricky Pearsall is out. Juwan Jennings is supposed to play today, so that is good news for that. I still think it leaves the door open for Kendrick Bourne in this matchup, because I think Jamel Dean is supposed to be back too for the Bucks, and he's definitely the Bucks' best cover corner. And I think he probably sees a little bit more of of Juwan Jennings, but I also think that you probably see in the Saints game, Chris Olave probably sees a little bit more of Christian Gonzalez, which kind of opens things up a little bit for Shaheed. I think Shaheed has the higher ceiling. Like we saw, like he has this ability to house a long touchdown, and where Bourne is a little bit more, I think, reception dependent, if that makes sense, like volume dependent. And I think with Juwan Jennings coming back, that probably hurts Kendrick Bourne a little bit. And so I would lean Rashid Shaheed in this matchup against the Patriots. Michael, hi. I need defense. Not much out there in my league. But I need Saints, Tampa, 49ers, Bears. Dare I say Dallas? I have Lions. I could get them back. Are the Titans available, Michael? That's who I would look at. That's one of my favorite kind of under the radar defenses for the week. If the Titans are sitting out there, like I said, the start of this week they were also in 1% of leagues. So, but I could see people maybe went out and already added them. Of the options you have left here, um, or maybe even Miami, like Miami against the Chargers, because how banged up the Chargers defense is, or offensive line is, excuse me. But I think of this group, if I had to choose, it probably would be the Bucks. And I say that because the we know that this defense, this Todd Bowles defense, is going to pressure at a really high rate. I think they're like number one in the league in pressure rate. They pressure on like it's like 57% of dropbacks for quarterbacks, which is the highest rate in the league. Um, and with Mac Jones being dealing with this injury he's still dealing with, like I don't think he's going to be all that mobile. So I think that could help. Like if I was absolutely desperate, it probably would be Tampa is what I would look at if I had to go there. JG89, Haskins or Henderson PPR. On the surface, you would think that it's pretty easily Travion Henderson, right? But it's just been super frustrating how they've utilized them so far this year. Like I don't know what it's going to take for them to actually give him the ball at a higher rate. I mean, it feels like at this point it doesn't matter what Ramondre Stevenson does. It doesn't matter how many times he fumbles. He's going to continue to be the guy. And so I would love to say Haskins, right? Because like Miami's run defense is like among the worst in the league right now. And well, we just saw Rico Dowdle go off for 200 yards. And I mean, Son Haskins isn't Rico Dowdle, but this run defense is so bad. But being a full PPR, I think I would still lean Travion Henderson and hope that he gets receptions. I just have no idea what this Chargers backfield is going to look like. I think at half point PPR, probably go Haskins and hope he finds a touchdown. But it's kind of the way that I look at it. But like I think Haskins has the higher floor, but I think Henderson has the higher ceiling, if that makes sense. Emilio, with Johnson out, do I start Swift, Travion, or Shaheed at flex in a standard league? Or do I drop DeMercado or Woody Marks and pick up someone like Kendrick Bourne? I would probably go DeAndre Swift in this matchup against the Commanders tomorrow. Really high game total for that game. Really like that spot. I still think Swift's like a borderline RB2 this week in this matchup. So I think I would just plug in Swift here, especially in a standard league where touchdowns, and Swift is still seeing like a huge workload, like a huge snap share. Like he's seeing pretty much all the touches from the backfield. So I think I would still just go Swift here. Rupp, what's up? How's it going today? I was thinking Carter over Brown for my RB2. I wouldn't do that now. I would go Chase Brown. With this news stuff going on with Bam Knight now being the starter or supposedly the starter. Like honestly, I don't even know what that means because there's plenty of times where running backs are the starter and they still don't lead the team in touches. Like it's just I don't, and especially with being the Cardinals, especially being on the road and just how everything's shaking out with this team right now. Like I would rather just not chance it, and I would just plug in Chase Brown, one positive for Chase Brown is going to be Joe Flacco loves to check down to running backs. And so, like, I think that at least helps Chase Brown a little bit. And we still know Chase Brown's going to be the workhorse. At least we know his role. The matchup might not be the greatest, but I would still go Chase Brown over Michael Carter. Also traded away Kamara for Swift. I don't hate that. And honestly, with this news coming out about that, it 100% like Kamara has been like a hot like trade, somebody that's going to get traded. I don't like now more and more. Like there was reports from Jay Glazer last week, and then one of the Saints beat reporters saying that Alvin Kamara has no interest in getting traded. And then Mickey Loomis, their owner, came and talked to him, and he told him the same thing, that he has no interest in being moved. If he's going to stick with the Saints, it makes his value not great because you're getting Kendre Miller mixing in, getting all of this early down work. I don't think that's going away. And Kamara's just not involved in the passing game the same as he was in previous years because, like, the same thing I've talked about with the situation that why am I blanking on his name? The Saints head coach, Kellen Moore. His offenses just don't feature running backs in the passing game, and so I just really have no excitement for Alvin Kamara. Like the excitement was if he got moved and he actually got traded, but it just doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. I mean, everything's telling us that, even though people trying to, all these accounts on Twitter are trying to tell us that there's possibility of him getting traded. He's not going anywhere unless Alvin Kamara decides he wants to get traded. And at this point, we've got no indication. So actually, I don't mind this at all for you, moving Kamara for Swift. JR, Judkins, Ridley, or Golden, half-point PPR, 10-man league. I'm going to go with Judkins here, especially in a half-point PPR. I do like Calvin Ridley quite a bit against the Raiders, but I still would go Quinshon Judkins. He's been a monster since taking over. He's one of my favorite running back plays this week. I would go with Quinshon Judkins, especially in a half-point PPR. Emilio, Dallas or Chargers defense? I would probably go with the Chargers, I guess. Like I can't play Dallas defense. I get it. They're playing the Carolina Panthers, and the Panthers offense hasn't been very good. I would probably still go with the Chargers though. They're at least with their defense. You could get Miami. So that's the other way you could lean. Like I said, I mean the Chargers defense is I keep saying defense. Their offensive line is extremely banged up. I mean, they're without so many players on this offensive line. And I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball that effectively, even with what's looking at there. So, like, I think Miami's kind of a stinky because they still have like Bradley Chubb and some of these guys up front that can get to the quarterback. And so, if they could get 3 or 4 sacks here in this game, I think Miami could be like a sneaky defense here, especially in Miami. That helps because we all know, especially like teams that are on the teams West Coast traveling to the East Coast, they just don't seem to play as well. And so I don't mind going Miami. Like Miami might be the safest bet. Over on Twitch, can you help me start to Rico Dowdle, Ted McMillan, or Devontae Adams? I would go with Rico Dowdle and Devontae Adams. I do really like Ted. You know what? No, give me Ted. Give me. I like all 3 of these a lot, but give me Ted and Devontae Adams. I don't want to play both Carolina Panthers, so give me Ted. I have Ted as a top 12 wide receiver, and I have Dowdle as a borderline top 12 running back too. But great matchup here for Devontae Adams. Obviously, the only concern you have, and I guess this question you have to ask yourself, is what kind of game script environment do you think this is going to be? Because I think that's the area that we struggle with. Is that like if this is just going to be a beatdown, do the Rams even open up the offense that much? Do they just run with Kyron and some with Blake Corum and just not really do a lot offensively? So, like, if you wanted to go Rico and Ted McMillan, like, I don't hate it. It's just I don't really love like this is not the offense that I want to be playing. Both pieces from this game, but I probably, if it was me, would go Ted and Devontae Adams. Yeah, and Kyler Murray's out now. Yeah, and Kyler Murray sounds like this is going to be like a multi-week injury, not just one. Super Dave. Hey, yo. Are we starting Bam over Kendre, Luke McCaffrey, Thornton, or Bond? Full PPR. So for me, this comes down to Thornton and Bam Knight. And so Thornton's going to be boomer bust, right? Tyquan Thornton. What I will say is that the Lions are going to be without their top two cover corners and possibly both of their safeties. The Chiefs could, and we know the Chiefs are going to throw the ball at a high rate. We know Tyquan Thornton, he's going to get some deep targets. He's been pretty consistent for the most part, even though his usage has dropped a little bit with Xavier Worthy coming back. And but this game being in Kansas City, like I would probably shoot for the ceiling and go with Tyquan Thornton, but I possibly Bam Knight probably a little bit safer just because if he's going to see an expanded workload and if he gets 10 to 12 touches, he's probably a little bit safer of an option, but he needs to find the end zone to pay off. I think is the way that I would look at it. Bam Knight or Henderson. I'd probably still go Henderson here on this one. At least I know what his role is going to be. I just have, like I've said, I have no idea what this role is going to be for Bam Knight. I hate the matchup against the Colts too. The Colts defense has been pretty solid this year, and so I just feel like this is going to be a trailing game script, and I just don't think Bam Knight's going to be that involved in the passing game. I think that still goes to Michael Carter, and so I think I would go with Travion Henderson. Bond, Jameson Williams, or Kendrick Bourne. I'd probably go Jameson Williams and hope that he can break off a long touchdown against the Chiefs. Chiefs secondary has struggled at times against the deep ball. They tend to just not get their. They don't never like Spags defense. They're awesome, but he never has his corners have his head turn around, and it gets them beat all the time deep. And so this is going to be a high scoring game tonight with the Chiefs and the Lions. I probably would just go Jameson Williams and hope that he finds the end zone. He's seeing targets, but they just haven't really connected outside of the one game. So I think I would do that. I think Brees will be traded. Yeah, there's a high likelihood of it, in which I also think, with that being said, I think that if that happens, like having Isaiah Davis right now rostered, I think is a really smart move because he would take over as the lead back, especially with Braylon Allen being out for a significant time. So he is somebody that I like to have stashed on my benches right now, Isaiah Davis, in the event that if Brees Hall were to be traded. Friggin' Bam Knight, yeah. I don't know what the Cardinals are doing. I don't. It really kinda came out of nowhere. Baker or Herbert? This is a very good question because I think both of these quarterbacks are in play. But I'm gonna go with Baker Mayfield. It's the consistency. He's been a top 5 quarterback. Like, I like the matchup probably a little bit more for Justin Herbert because the Dolphins defense, especially their secondary, has not been good. But this offense just hasn't looked the same the last 3 weeks. And so I still would go with Baker Mayfield. I know what to expect. I know they're not going to have Chris Godwin, but Chris Godwin hasn't really played this year. So like I don't think that's a huge deal here for this team this week. And they still have Emeka Egbuka. I actually think it's a pretty decent boost to someone like Kate Otten. Like if you were desperate for a tight end, I think Kate Otten becomes interesting. Hunter Long, I think, is also kind of an interesting, streaming option this week. Now that Brenton Strange is going to be out for a while, he kind of elevates himself as kind of the number one tight end here. Feels like a Jake Tonjes type situation with him, but I would go Baker here. Jeff, Kenneth Walker, Jacoby Myers, T. Higgins, or Ridley at the flex. I'm gonna go Kenneth Walker here. I know it's been frustrating, especially with Zach Charbonnet just coming in every single time they get to the red zone and him losing touchdowns to Charbonnet, but he's still been super explosive with his touches and honestly, like the Jaguars' defense is better than what it typically has been, but this is still a defense that can get gashed on the ground, and so I think I would go with Kenneth Walker here if it was me. Though I do really like Jacoby Myers and Calvin Ridley as well. Who are you starting at wide receiver, by the way? Just curious. Will we get a Trey Harris sighting with QJ out? Yes. Um, I would assume that he's going to see more of a role this week in this matchup. Um, But actually, again, speaking of tight ends that I think are streamable this week, Aronde Gatson, I think actually becomes pretty interesting as well here. We saw him, a couple weeks ago get like 7 targets and a few weeks ago, and he's kind of been trending up in his usage. Even why it hasn't necessarily come to fruition and his overall workload. Um, he started to see the field a lot more, and I know Will Dissly will be back, I believe, this week. So that, but they've talked really positively about him, but his route share has went up, and so without QJ, I could see Aronde Gatson get a little bit more run too. So he's kind of he's kind of another flex play that I don't mind. LB, Kenneth Walker or DeAndre Swift. I'm gonna go with Kenneth Walker here. I have Kenneth Walker as like a top 15 running back this week, and so I would go with Kenneth Walker here over DeAndre Swift. Okay, so you're going Pickens and McMillan. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I am definitely playing those two over them. So Nico, but yeah, I'm in the same situation. I am a Nico Collins owner myself. So um look at that, Cody. Long time listener, first time caller. It's weird to have a Cody in here, but good to see you. Uh, sorry for your loss of your Penn State, and saw what happened to Drew Aller yesterday, and they just keep losing, and now things are going to get rough. Too bad you don't have Bo Pribula that you could have had, but not that it matters because Mizzou lost yesterday, anyways. But sad to say for your Penn State Nittany Lions. Anyways, Hollywood or Tez, then in Superflex, half point, tight end premium, Brissett, Juwan Johnson, Ton just need one, and then Ridley, Godwin, or Golden, Stevenson. Love you. Love you too. Like, I think Tez Johnson's actually kind of a sneaky play this week in this game environment. Um, I just don't like. I think it becomes like a wide receiver 5. I think because like with the other options they still have there. But Hollywood, man, you know what? I think I would go Tez Johnson and just shoot for the ceiling because I definitely think there's an opportunity here for him to see some targets, to see some usage. Last week ran 18 routes, played 33% of the snaps. That was with Chris Godwin playing. I saw 4 targets in that game and 59 yards. So I think I would go with Tez Johnson here over Hollywood Brown because I mean even with Hollywood Brown, with Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelsey, Tyquan Thornton, there's just so many different avenues there for the ball to go, and you just never know. I don't think there's a ton of ceiling there for Hollywood Brown with Xavier Worthy playing. And so I think I would go with Tez Johnson. Love the game environment too with the 49ers and Bucks, one of the higher totals on the slate. I think I would go with Tez Johnson there. And then it's still hard for me to sit in a super flex, someone like a quarterback, but if I was going to, it's going to be for Juwan Johnson. I think Juwan Johnson is in a phenomenal spot. We've seen what kind of ceiling he can have. And so I would go with Juwan Johnson, I think, over Jacoby Brissett, just because, I mean, last year, now it's a little bit different of an offense with different weapons and stuff like that. Obviously, the Patriots were a train wreck last year, but I know Brissett played some last year, but he was horrible. Like, I don't think he even ever got over 160 yards in a game. And so, like, I think I would just go with Juwan Johnson. And then need one Ridley, Golden, Stevenson. I would go with Calvin Ridley. Love Calvin Ridley. Love this spot for him. With the Raiders secondary is absolutely trash. And so I would go with Calvin Ridley. The other one would be, I think, Ramondre, just because of his role, his goal line work. Like, I think it comes down between those two. And so, but I would still go Calvin Ridley there. So for me, it's going to be Tez Johnson, Juwan Johnson, and Calvin Ridley. So, Cody, love seeing you. Love seeing you around, but sorry. Yeah, everything sucks. Yeah. Uh, for Penn State. And they look so good. Like, it looked like headed into the year that this team was going to be really good and they were going to push for a playoff spot again this year. But those chances look to be Pretty swim. Oh yeah, that's Cody that you stream with. Yes, that is Cody. And oh, let me get back. I saw one. And then Junkins at H-Hand and running back. Oh yeah. So I mean, I think you're still in a pretty good spot. I mean, honestly, I mean, this even without Nico Collins this week. I mean, love the wide receivers, Pickens and McMillan. Great matchup there. And then your running backs, I think, are really solid as well. So I think overall, this is a really solid team. Is this a 12-team league? I don't know if you said. I'm just curious. Tez or Bam? Oh my goodness, this is where we're at. This is where we're at. Um, is this a full PPR or half point PPR? If I think a full PPR, I go Tez Johnson and just hope for the upside. There's just so much uncertainty with how this Cardinals backfield is going to go, and I just don't love the spot. I do not love this matchup for the Cardinals. Truetel, are you making this trade? Garrett, ETN for Hampton, T Mac. He wants H-Hand for me, but I'm trying to convince him for ETN. So I'm assuming you'd be getting Garrett Wilson and ETN. You'd be giving up Amari and Hampton and Ted McMillan. I'm assuming if I'm reading this correctly. I would assume. Man. um It's tough part to I mean, one, I'm not trading H-Hand. So we're not doing that. Like, let's just get that out of the way. We're not trading Devon H-Hand for Garrett Wilson and ETN. Like, I'm not doing that. And so, like, that takes I would even consider that. The other part is like Hampton is going to be out for, it sounds like even now, excuse me, with the report today that uh it was originally reported that Hampton was only going to miss the minimum of 4 games. Now it's come out that he's going to miss more than the 4 games. So, like, that's obviously bad news. And then you have Bryce Young being Bryce Young and not playing well, which has limited Ted McMillan's upside. Um, so I'm assuming you're meaning this as I wouldn't. I don't think I could trade for Hampton with the news that how long he's going to be out. Like it seems like you have decent enough depth if you have Achan and you have Bijan, like to where you could actually hold and make it last and make it work. Um, I guess I'd also want to know like what the rest of your roster looks like to be able to even see if like just to kind of see how everything plays out. I don't think I know enough about this team to be able to say that. Need some more Harvey touches. Our lost neighbors. Yeah. Tez available in reference to my first question. Full PPR. So if it being full PPR, I think I do it. I just say fuck it. Let's go. Let's go. Tez Johnson. We're playing this like it's a GPP this week. Like we're playing DFS, and we're gonna play Tez Johnson here, and just bet against how bad this Cardinals offense could be with Jacoby Brissett and whatever's gonna happen. Because like I don't even know. Like there's still a chance that Amari DiMercado could be playing, and this could be just a really gross 3-way backfield here, kind of like the Commanders have been in previous weeks before they unleashed Bill before that. So like I mean that backfield was a backfield you never really wanted to play anybody from, and that's kind of how I'm feeling about the Cardinals. So I think I would just say fuck it, right, and just we'll just go play Tez Johnson here. Harold, Hello, Luke McCaffrey, Olave, BTJ, Trey Tucker, need to. We're gonna play Olave. We're gonna play BTJ. I do like Trey Tucker as kind of an interesting play this week, but I would still go Olave and Brian Thomas. Ronnie, what's up, Ronnie? How you doing? What's up? Need three full PPR. James Cook, ETN, Rashad White, Montgomery, Swift. So James Cook for sure, Rashad White for sure, and then it comes down to ETN, Swift, or David Montgomery. Let me see here. I think it's really close between ETN and DeAndre Swift, but I think I would lean Travis Etienne. Something to keep in mind that the Seattle defense is extremely banged up. Like they're going to be without both of their starting corners. They're going to be without one of their safeties. Like this defense is going to be pretty thin. They're also missing their linebacker as well. Like this defense is pretty banged up. I think I would go with Travis Etienne as the other one. Would be my lean. So Cook, Rashad White, and Travis Etienne would be the three that I would go with. Derrick Henry, Kareem Hunt, Javante need to standard. I'm gonna go with Javante. He's an absolute lock. Top 8 running back this week, even in standard PPR, full PPR, half point PPR. Doesn't matter. Javante Williams is a lock for me. And then it comes, man, it's crazy that there's even a discussion to be had between Derrick Henry and Kareem Hunt. Uh, but I'd probably still go Derrick Henry. I hate the environment, but crazy things happen. Sometimes teams are able to, figure some things out. I but I would go with. I think I would still have to play, especially at a standard. Derrick Henry, if they can get down there, especially early in the game, it's definitely possible Derrick Henry scores a touchdown. I would go with Derrick Henry, or if Derrick Henry is able to rip off like a long touchdown. So I would go with Henry and Javante. Non PPR, flex one, Michael Carter, Chase Brown, DeAndre Swift. I'm gonna go in a non PPR. I'm gonna go with DeAndre Swift. It really doesn't matter to me. I don't think it's that big of a difference. It's just the expected workload for DeAndre Swift. Now Chase Brown would be the other one that I would look at, uh, but just don't like him as much with the matchup and everything else. And who knows how everything's gonna play with Joe Flacco. I think I would just go with DeAndre Swift. Stafford or Mahomes? It's gonna be Mahomes. Mahomes is a top 3 quarterback for me this week. He hasn't gotten the respect, I think, so far this year. There were so many people this offseason that were saying how bad Patrick Mahomes was as a fantasy option, a fantasy quarterback, which is why he ended up being like a 5th or 6th round pick, where typically in years past it's been like a second or third. That hasn't been the case. And that so for me, like and now we've seen I mean Mahomes has been phenomenal this year. Like he's the Chiefs leading rusher, which is crazy to even think about. So, but I would go with Patrick Mahomes. Stafford's a good play, right? But there's a lot of concern that if the Ravens can't do anything, that they just don't really need to throw the ball, and Stafford just doesn't get there. Where Mahomes, I can safely say against the Lions, they're going to have to throw the ball a lot, and so I'm going Mahomes easily. Would you hold Bam and drop Rashad Smith for Tez or Thornton, or just send Bam to waivers and add Tez or Thornton? Yeah, I would just drop Bam Knight. Like I don't see I just can't see a scenario where like he is like going to be something where it feels like it hurts you. Like if you wanted to hold Bam Knight for a week just to kind of see how this plays out, just kind of see like I guess you could drop Rashad Smith. Like Rashad Smith's not like all of a sudden going to become like the workhorse running back for the Chiefs. It's not going to happen. I think there's like some flex appeal in PPR formats. The Chiefs continue to be like linked to other running backs. Like if that were to happen, then that changes things too. Like I just don't see a scenario where Rashad Smith is going to be asked for that. So I probably would, honestly, looking at it, just hold Bam Knight, Zonovan Knight for one game, and just to see how this plays out, and see what happens, and just drop Rashad Smith for one of those. I think is the way I would do it. Ronnie, Zay Flowers or JMO, full PPR things. I'm going to go with Jameson Williams. Zay Flowers is expected to play, but he's expected to be on a limited snap count, limited usage. I mean, if the Rams get up quickly and they're up 21-0, you may not see Zay Flowers the rest of the game. So I would just go with Jameson Williams, who we know is going to be out there healthy, game environment, everything else. I would just go Jameson Williams. So, Super Dave, appreciate the super chat. You rock. Let's hit that like. Yes, if you haven't already, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Really appreciate it. We also believe should be on there now. We also launched members, where basically a members option as well. Basically, I just put it on there if people want to, especially on Wednesday nights when I have a ton of questions. Sundays isn't as bad, but on Wednesdays, if people want to just jump in instead of having to do super chats and all that stuff, they can sign up and do. I think it's $3.99 a month. If it isn't, I'm going to change it to that to where it's $3.99 a month, and you basically can just drop your questions in there, and those are going to go to the top of the list, like we always do with super chats. Except for this time, it'll just be members. So it's up to you guys. It's not required by any means. I'm still going to answer every one of the questions, but if people want to, instead of having to do like super chats or sitting here and wait for 20, 30 minutes for me to get to their question, especially on Wednesday nights, then that option's there. Mini Jordan, full PPR pick 2, Worthy, Harrison, or Debo. Give me Xavier Worthy, top 10 wide receiver play this week for one more week, anyways, until Rashee Rice is back next week against the Raiders. And then the other one's going to be Debo. I do think like Marvin Harrison is like an interesting option. We have seen in the past that that Jacoby Brissett tends to like lock on to one wide receiver, and there's really no other options. So could see that, but I would still go with Debo Samuel, especially with Terry McLaurin out. So against the Bears, so it's going to be pretty easy to me. Xavier Worthy and Debo Samuel. Okay, so you like Tez or Thornton more? I would go Thornton just because I know what to expect. He's going to see plenty of deep targets. I know the Lions secondary is absolutely destroyed with injuries, and they really struggle to stop the deep ball. And that is exactly what you're going to see plenty of from Tyquan Thornton. Like I think 3 or 4 deep option or deep passes are definitely within the range of possibility, and him finding the end zone is a pretty decent shot. I would go Tyquan Thornton just as the ceiling play, but if not, Tez isn't a bad option. But I think Tyquan is probably just a little bit better spot for me. Joe, Las Vegas or Jacksonville D? I would just go to Las Vegas. I would go with the Raiders. The Raiders defense can still get to the quarterback. They still have Max Crosby. The Titans have, and Cam Ward has been sacked at an incredibly high rate. I think the Raiders would be another option you could look at. So, that being said, I think that's all the questions that, at least for now. So, a little bit of time left here before lock and some other stuff to do. I think I'll get out of here unless some other questions come in. But we'll be back again tonight for the waivers, as we always do, live every Sunday night. Answer all your waiver questions to get you ready for Week 7 for next week. And then, same routine, back with must-play defense to kickers, and then our must-plays of the week. And then we'll go live again on Wednesday night to answer all of your start-sit questions. Usually go live. I think last week we were live for like 2.5 hours. So answering every single question for the week. So hope everybody runs pure today. Hope everybody gets all the W's and stays clean this week. Nobody gets hurt. That's always the play. But we'll see you on the next one. So actually, see you tonight for the Week 7 waiver wire. Bye.